Elemental Hardware Enrichment. My name is Aiden, and today we're going to be building an LED light frame. Before we get started with building, let's go ahead and talk about the supplies that we're going to need for this project. So for this project, we're going to need a sanding block, sandpaper, a rag, safety glasses, let's go ahead and put those on now, a bottle of glue, a tray for all of our small hardware parts, and some tape. Now that we've introduced all of our supplies, let's go ahead and talk about the tools that we're going to need for this project. So for this project, we're going to need a hammer. Once you've got your hammer, you can go ahead and close up your toolkit and get it out of your way. All right, I've got my tools, I've got my supplies, so let's go ahead and open up our box and talk about the different materials that we're going to find inside. To open the box, I'm going to be using the back of my hammer, and I'm going to run the hammer down the tape between the two box clasps to open it up. Once I've split that open with the hammer, I can use my hands to pry open the edges. All right, we've got our box open, so let's go ahead and talk about what we're going to find inside. The first thing that we're going to take out is some packing paper. You want to open up the packing paper just to make sure no small parts got caught up inside of it. Now let's get it out of our way. Next, we're going to take out our bag of hardware. We'll go ahead and talk about this in a little while. Let's put it off to the side for now. And let's start by talking about our wood parts. The first parts we're going to be taking out look like this, and they're very similar, but they're slightly different. These are going to be our long miters. You'll notice that one has a hole through it, that's long miter 1, and one has no hole, that's long miter 2. Next, we have our short miters. These ones are exactly the same. Next, we have our short frame sides, these two small rectangles, and our long frame sides, our longer rectangles. The last piece we have inside of our box is going to be this white back panel. Now that we've got everything out of our way, let's get the box out of our way and go ahead and talk about the different hardware that we're going to find in this project. So I'm going to go ahead and open up my hardware bag and introduce each piece one after another. The first thing that we have is our LED light strip. We then have our IR receiver. We have our LED remote, a power supply, a square of double-sided tape, an extra battery for our remote, and then we have two bags of nails. We have our red dot bag and our blue dot bag. Now that we've introduced all of our materials and hardware, we can get started sanding our project so we can prep it for the build. All right, let's go ahead and get started sanding our parts. So one thing to remember, we're not going to be sanding our back panel. Let's go ahead and put that one off to the side. We're just going to be focusing on these wood parts for now. So I'm going to go ahead and take my sanding block, and I'm going to set it onto my sandpaper by laying my sandpaper like this with the soft side up. I'll set the block right across the center, and then fold the two sides of the sandpaper over it to make a little sandpaper burrito. Once you've got your sanding block all set up, you can begin sanding your pieces. All right, once you've got all your pieces sanded down, you're going to go ahead and take your rag and wipe off any of the dust that was left from sanding. Once you wipe down your pieces, make sure to wipe down your work surface as well. All right, we finished up sanding, so now we're ready to get started building our LED light frame. The first step of building our LED light frame is going to be to attach one of our long sides to our short sides to start building the frame for our box. So I'm going to need my short sides as well as one of my long sides. I'm going to go ahead and take the rest of my pieces and move them off to the side to get them out of my way. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to open up a bag of nails. So I'm going to look for my red dot bag and I'm going to go ahead and open up that bag and dump the nails into my tray. I'm then going to go ahead and set one nail into each of the pre-drilled holes on my long side piece. This is called pre-nailing. Once I've got the nail set into the piece, I can move it off to the side and pick up one of my short pieces. I'm going to stand it up tall so that it stands on its short side edge and the other short side edge is facing up towards the ceiling. I'm then going to go ahead and remove the cap from my glue. I'm going to put it in my tray so I don't lose it. And I'm going to put a little bit of glue onto this up-facing edge. Once I've got the glue on there, I can go ahead and spread it out evenly using my finger. And then I can go ahead and wipe my finger on my rag. Now what I want to do is set one of the nailed edges of my long side piece over this glued edge of my short side piece. So I'm going to start to line that all up, and then I'm going to use my remaining short side piece over here to balance it. Once I've got it pretty well balanced, I can start lining these two pieces up flush. That means that they're perfectly lined up. So if I run my finger over them, it should just feel like one piece. Make sure to take your time with this step and make sure you get it as flush as possible. Once you've got it as flush as you can, you're going to go ahead and hold the two pieces together and tack in your first nail. So I'm going to use my offhand to hold my pieces together, and I'm going to tack in this first nail closest to me. That means I'm going to hit it in about halfway. Once I've got that nail tacked in, I'm going to stop and double check that my two pieces are still flush. It does feel like they moved a little bit while I was hammering, so I can still pivot on that nail and readjust the two pieces. Once I've got them adjusted, I'm going to hold everything together and hammer off that second nail. Once I've got the second nail in, go ahead and finish off the first one. All right, I've got that first side attached, so the last thing to do is just wipe up any excess glue. Go ahead and replace my nail that fell out. And now I can go ahead and attach the remaining short side to my next long side. So just like I did before, I'm going to set this piece up standing tall and place a little bit of glue onto that up-facing edge. Once I've got the glue on there, I'm going to go ahead and line up this glued edge with the pre-nailed edge of my long side piece. Once I've got it all lined up, I'm going to start to line both pieces up perfectly flush. Now that I've got the two pieces flush, I'm going to hold them together and tack in my first nail. Once I've got that first nail tacked in, let's just double check that we're still flush before we hammer off our second nail. Now that we've got the second nail in, let's finish off the first one. All right, we finished the first side of our frame, so the last thing to do is wipe up any excess glue. The next step will be to attach the remaining long side piece to our frame to finish it off. All right, we're ready to attach our remaining long side piece. So let's go ahead and find that piece. And just like we did before, we're going to go ahead and pre-nail. So let's place one nail into each of the holes on our long side piece. Next, we're going to go ahead and flip this over to make a U shape. We want to make sure that the exposed short side edges of our short side pieces are facing up. And we're going to place a little bit of glue onto both of those up-facing edges. Once you've spread that glue out, go ahead and wipe your finger clean. Next, we're going to place this long side piece over the top of those glued edges. Now we want to make sure that both sides are lined up, but we're just going to do them one at a time. It's really hard to flush both sides at the same time. So I'm going to start with my left-hand side over here and just focus on that one for now. Once I've got this side perfectly flush, I'm going to hold it all together with my offhand and tack in my first nail. Once I've got that nail tacked in, I can double check that I'm still flush and hammer off my second nail. Now I can finish off the first nail. All right, now that we've got our first side attached, let's move on to the next side and begin flushing that one up. Because this other side's already attached, the piece might naturally want to pull out of flush. So what we're going to do is line everything up, and then once we have it perfectly lined up, we're going to use our offhand to brace our two pieces together so that they don't move. So I've got it at a place that I'm happy with. I'm going to use my offhand to brace them both together so that they don't move while I tack in my first nail. Once I've got that nail tacked in, I can let go and the piece should stay in place. One last check to make sure it's flush, and let's hammer off that second nail. All right, let's finish off the first nail. Okay, we finished the frame for our box, so the next step is going to be to attach our back panel so we can move on with our LED frame. For this next step, I'm going to be attaching the back panel of my LED light frame. So what I'm going to do is lay this frame down flat on the desk, and I'm going to be applying glue over this up-facing edge all the way around the frame. Once I've got the glue on there, I can go ahead and spread it out evenly using my finger. Now that I've got my glue spread out, I'm going to pick up my back panel and lay it down over the top. I'm going to do my best to line this back panel up so that it lies flush on all sides. Once I've got it to a place that I'm happy with, I can get started nailing. So let's go ahead and open up our blue dot bag and get our nails. I'm going to dump those out into my tray. And this is a back panel, so we're going to be using panel nails to attach it to our frame. I'm going to pick up one nail and I'm going to start at this right corner closest to me. Double check that this corner is nice and flush. Then I'm going to hold the two pieces together with my offhand and hammer in this first nail. Once I've got that first nail in, I'm going to do the next nail directly across on the same side. So I'm going to double check that I'm still flush, make any necessary adjustments, and then I'll go ahead and set my nail and hammer it off. Once I've got these two nails set in this bottom side edge, I'm going to flip the frame around and work on the other side. Make sure it's all lined up flush and hammer in my next nail. Now that I've got these three nails attached, I can go ahead and hammer off the rest of my nails to secure the back panel to my frame. Alright, and just like that, the box for my LED light frame is complete. The last step is just going to be to wipe up any excess glue. Make sure to check inside the box for any glue that might have spilled out at the corners. Okay, we finished that up, so we can move on to our next step, which will be to set up the frame using our mitered pieces. Alright, we're ready to construct our frame using our mitered pieces. So let's go ahead and move our box off to the side for now, and we're going to go ahead and pick up our mitered pieces. We have long miter 1 with the hole in it, long miter 2 with no hole, and our small mitered pieces, or our short mitered pieces. What we're going to want to do is make sure we give ourselves plenty of space here. And we're going to be lining up these mitered pieces in alternating order. We want to make sure that the side with the flat edge is facing up and the slanted side is facing down towards our table. So we'll start with a short piece, and then a long piece, doesn't matter which one, and then another short piece, and then my last long piece. Once you've got all your pieces lined up, you want to double check that they're in alternating order. Short, long, short, long. Then you want to take some time to make sure that all of your pieces are lined up perfectly. Once you have all your pieces lined up, you're going to go ahead and use your tape to secure the pieces together. So I'm going to rip off a piece of tape about 3 or 4 inches long, and I'm going to place it over the gap between two of my pieces. And go ahead and do that with the remaining pieces to secure them all together. Once you've got all your pieces taped together, you want to carefully flip them over so that the slanted edges are facing up. Once you've got them all flipped over, go ahead and double check that they're lined up correctly. And now what we're going to be doing is placing glue onto all of these slanted or mitered edges. So I'm going to start on this very far edge and place a bead of glue. Then I'm going to place some glue between these two pieces. And just work my way down, applying glue to all of my mitered edges. Now the only thing that's going to be holding these pieces together is glue, so it's important that you use enough glue. If you end up using too much, you can always wipe it up with your rag. Once you have the glue on there, go ahead and spread it out evenly using your finger. Looks like I could use a little bit more glue on this edge. Now I'm going to go ahead and wipe up my finger. And the next step is going to be to begin to fold my pieces together to form my frame. So I'm going to start here on the outside edge, and I want to line these two pieces up perfectly as I fold them together. Once I have the pieces set up like this, I like to lay it down flat on my desk so that I can line it up perfectly. What I'm doing is I'm squeezing those corners together to really squeeze glue into any gaps between the pieces. Once I've got it to a place that I'm happy with, I'm going to go ahead and tear off another piece of tape and tape this off to dry. Again, make sure to squeeze your corners together and tape it off nice and tight. Now the last step I'm going to do is just wipe up any excess glue on both sides so this doesn't get stuck to the table while it's drying. Got that side wiped up. Let's go ahead and lift it up. Make sure to fix our tape. Wipe up any glue that may have gotten onto our table. And then we'll wipe up the other side. All right, now we're going to go ahead and move this piece off to the side, and it's important to keep it flat while it dries. While we're waiting for that to dry, we can go ahead and set up our LED IR receiver and begin setting our LED strip into our box. For this next step, we're going to set up our LED IR receiver and attach it to our box. So let's go ahead and locate our IR receiver, and we're also going to need our double-sided tape. Now we're going to look for the side of our IR receiver that's blank. One side has this sticker on it, but we want to work with the blank side. I'm going to place this down so that that blank side is facing up and remove one side of my double-sided tape. I'm then just going to lay the double-sided tape down right in the center of that block, just like that. Once you've got it set like that, you can go ahead and grab your box. And on the back of the back panel, there's a small hole right here. We want to place all of these cords through the hole in our back panel. So we're going to have to do it one by one. I'll start with the bigger ones. And then I'll place through the smaller one. Now I want to push these cords through till I have about 1 inch or 1/2 inch between the box and the hole. Once I'm at a place that I'm happy with, I can go ahead and remove the other side of the tape and stick my IR receiver right down next to that hole. Just like that. Next, we're going to flip our box around and we can begin laying our LEDs. All right, we're ready to begin laying our LEDs into our box for the next step of our frame. So for that, we're going to need our LED strip, and we're going to remove this little piece of tape holding the LEDs in place. We're then going to unspool our LEDs just a little bit, and we're looking at this 4-pronged connection right here, which is going to attach to one of these outlets right here on our receiver. So we're going to line that up and plug it in. Once we've got that plugged in, we can start laying the LEDs around our frame. So what we want to do is look for the piece covering the adhesive on the back of our LEDs and carefully peel that away. Once you've peeled back a little bit, you're going to set your LEDs into this ledge here around the edge of your box. You want to start your first row right up against the edge of the back panel so that you're leaving yourself room for 3 rows going all the way around this box. Once you've set that out, you can go ahead and start laying your LEDs all the way around. Once you get back to where you started, you're going to pull the LED strip out at an angle and go diagonally so that you're right in front of your first row, and then continue around. Once you get back to the start again, you're going to do the exact same thing to set your third and final row right in front of that second row. When you're finished, you'll end up with about 2.5 rows going all the way around, and it should look something like this. It doesn't have to be perfect because we're going to end up covering it up with our frame in just a little bit. Now that we've got our LEDs set, we're ready to attach our frame and finish assembling our LED light frame. For this last step, we're going to attach our frame to our box to finish our LED light frame. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay my box down on my desk, and I'm going to run this LED receiver box up against the edge of the desk so that it lays flat. It's just hanging over the edge here at the back. Next, I'm going to carefully start to remove the tape from my frame. Once I've removed the tape, I can go ahead and lay a line of glue all the way along the up-facing edge of my box. Once you've got your glue spread out, go ahead and spread it evenly with your finger. What we're going to do next is lay the frame over the top of our box so that it rests on the top of that glued edge. But one thing that's very important is to note the hole in the bottom of our frame. We want to make sure that this black tipped piece goes through that hole because this is the laser reader on our IR receiver. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to line this piece up over the top of my box. I'm going to take this piece and line it up with that hole and push it through as I lay this down. And I just want it poking out just a little bit, and then I can begin lining up my frame. Once I've got my frame to a place that I'm happy with it, I'm going to tape it into place for it to dry. So I'm going to lay one piece of tape across the top, and then another going across the bottom. And you want to make sure this tape is nice and tight to hold everything together so that it can dry properly. Then you also want to run tape going from top to bottom. Alright, and just like that, my LED light frame is complete. So I'm going to give this some time to dry, then I'll sand it and paint it, and I'll be right back. Alright, so I got my frame all painted. I decided to go with a cool little Elemental Hardware DIY theme on this one. And now I want to show you guys how you can plug it in and use it. So with your frame, you have this power supply. Let's go ahead and take off the twist tie. And you're just going to plug this into a regular outlet. Once you've got it plugged in, you're going to go ahead and plug this barrel plug into the input on your receiver. Once you've done that, you can go ahead and open up your LED remote. Now the remote has a small plastic tab here in the front to activate the batteries. Let's go ahead and pull that out. and then we can hit the power button to turn on our frame. Now you can see it lights up, you can change the colors, you can go blue, green, whatever you're into. You can even have it do a fade feature, which is one of my favorites, but it's really just something you can play around with. You can find a cool picture of your pets, someone you love, or just something cool to put in there, put it in your room or another area of your house, and just enjoy it. So anyway, my name's Aiden. Thanks for stopping by to build this LED light frame with me today at Elemental Hardware Enrichment, and I'm looking forward to seeing you on the next one.